Awesome. Okay. Hey, Larry, thanks for your time again. This is such a pleasure. You have just been super encouragement to me, and I really appreciate you for that and helping me in the run up to getting Rebel Family started. The thing that I've been bragging on you about is how you said, well, Dan, just schedule time with me. I'll answer all your questions. And you actually really have been doing that. So you're a crazy man, but you're super generous, and I'm really thankful. So this is such a joy to get you as the first invited speaker on the Rebel Family podcast. So I'm really, really appreciative of that. And you really mean what you say. So you've jumped on here, given you time. Thank you. Could you just kick us off? I would love for you just to share a little bit about yourself and what has shaped your life. Is that cool?
Yeah, man, let's do it. Yeah. So I would say the
Awesome.
thing that shaped my life the most was probably my childhood. And I'll wrap this up in 90 seconds. Uh, Born 1975, parents were married for a handful of years. They got divorced when I was just under a year. My dad completely left. No recollection of him whatsoever. Don't remember him. My mom met another man when I was 4. He adopted me. I actually was under the impression at that point that women go out and find dads for us. Had no clue about this biological thing, right? Like moms go out and find dads. So they were married for a handful of years till I was 10. They got divorced. At that point in time, I started asking questions because I remember when they met. I remember being at their wedding, and that's when I found out I had a biological father. So I actually had an opportunity to meet him when I was 12, so just a couple of years later.
Oh.
That relationship ended quickly. We spent time together for a handful of months. I think it was probably 4 or 5, 6 months, maybe at the most. He was remarried, had a 2-year-old son, another one on the way. And I think things just kind of got a little complicated for him. So we decided to part ways. Didn't know him. My mom married and divorced 3 times. Every guy she was with and dated, there was usually some kind of element of toxicity, abuse, substance, alcohol, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When I was 30, 2 things happened. I became a father for the first time, was terrified. And I met my biological father again. This time I was sitting in a coffee shop and sipping on a cup of coffee, having with a friend of mine, and who came walking in the door to get their morning coffee as well, but my father. And ever since then, that was 15 years ago. Ever since then, we have had a relationship, and I have 4 boys. And what I can tell you, the whole thing of Dadedge really came about because from my childhood, I learned a lot of things what not to do, and which was good lessons. But if you're a contractor trying to build a house for the first time and someone gives you an instruction manual, be like, these are the 100 things you don't do, but everything else you got to figure out. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
So I struggled with it. And, 7 years ago, I decided to do something about it, which was become a student of it, learn as much as I could.
That's awesome.
And here we are today.
I love that. Become a student. I totally resonate with that.
Become a student. Yeah.
That's it. You got to go get it. So here's what I'm interested just in sort of general big picture stuff is could you think of what something that's perhaps been the single best piece of advice you've ever heard that's helped you to raise your family as you've been on that journey of discovery?
There's a couple, and I'll share a couple. I like quotes a lot because quotes, I think, keep men grounded. One of the quotes are, the definition of hell is meeting the man that you could have been when you're lying on your deathbed. And
Wow. That's
yeah,
heavy.
it
That's a
is.
good one.
It is. I don't want to meet that man. I think the goal of most men is that when they're on their deathbed, they want to know that they lived that fulfilled life with no regrets. And there are micro decisions that we are confronted with every day as men and fathers. Will you play football with me? Will you read to me? Will you show me this? Can I have your attention? Dad, 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 dad. And how you respond to that. If I could be like, would I be proud of this decision if I was on my deathbed and I had to answer to this, and that's what keeps me grounded. Another quote is, don't come home with a wallet full of money and a house full of strangers. Men get very caught up in providing, which I think is great. You got to provide financially.
Sure.
But at the end of your life, do you want to leave behind $1 gazillion, or do you want to leave behind amazing memories? Or, could you do both? And you can do both.
Yes, you can. I was just this last week noticing that very quote and thinking about it. I didn't end up posting it anywhere. It just hit. I know it just hit me. And you sometimes you succeed more at one, and sometimes more at the other. Sometimes both. But that's a not an easy combo. So what if this is getting more personal, but what about what's been one of the most difficult times where you've had to navigate your family through I don't know, a time of trial, a time of testing, something that might help the rest of us, kind of connect in with how how you did that. If you've got that vision for getting to the end of your life, whenever that might be, and having lived it well, that takes a lot of fortitude, courage, vision, tenacity to not live in a reactionary way day to day. So yeah, I guess I'm sure a lot of people listening are just wondering, okay, well, how did Larry handle that difficult season or that difficult situation? Is there anything that comes to mind that you could share?
Sure. There's a couple. I like to call them the 8 counts, and I got that from a podcast I was just on. Chris Romulo runs a podcast called The 8 Count. He's a professional fighter. And he asked me, what's your 8 count moment? What are a couple of your 8 count moments? A couple of my 8 count moments are when I started Good Dad Project back in 2012. It came out of a real big low point. My 12-year-old, I have a 12-year-old now. At the time, he was 4. I was the typical guy that I think walks around to where I didn't have a lot of work-life balance. I was very short on patience. I had all good intentions. I was a good guy, all good intentions, but I just didn't have guidance into how I could show up better as a father. And one night I spanked him for doing something wrong. He hit the ground. I went to help him up, and he shuddered. And I was like, "Oh, that cuts deep." And I'll never forget that, because at that moment I no longer saw my son. I saw me when I was a kid, and I was like, "This is exactly what I didn't want to do. How is it that I am actually doing the things that I didn't want to do?" So it was really being humble and sidestepping ego and being like, you know what, I'm done trying to figure this out on my own. White flag. I am going to dive in and learn something new every single day, dive into like-minded men community to learn. And then the second one was back in 2017. I really hit a snag with my health that almost ended my life. I was training for an ultra event. I was training for a SEAL Fit event, which basically is 12 to 24 hours of crucible event where they put you through, hell in a handbag.
Yeah.
And from what I understand about that event, you really get to meet yourself. They pretty much replicate the Navy SEAL Hell Week but more civilian based. And I was training for that, and I was training very recklessly. I was in great shape, but training long hours and recklessly and pushing my body to the limit. And what happened is just completely overwhelmed my adrenal system and had a hard time sleeping. And in 33 days, I averaged an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep a night. And it's devastated my health. I lost about 25 pounds, and I weigh about 180 pounds, 6'1", so I don't have 25 pounds to lose.
No.
And it put me in the hospital for 4 days and ended up with PTSD for 8 months, dealt with that. But I left out a lot of detail of what happened during that, but in the interest of time, it was a true 8 count moment where I was about ready to give up on everything. And it was really to the surrender of help that was bigger than me that allowed me to keep going.
Wow. I think I so appreciate just hearing the authentic side of these stories where men like yourself that so many look to for leadership. It's easy for people to make the assumption it's okay for Larry. He's got stuff handled. It must be easier. But of course, life is life. Every family, every individual has a lot of those heartbreaking, crushing moments to work through. So that's so helpful. I appreciate you sharing that. If I could just shift for a second to vision, is something I love thinking about, love talking about. But the biggest piece I'm really interested in with vision is not only helping families craft a vision and of discovery of things that are in their heart and the way they want to raise their kids and all the ways that vision should touch on life, or like you said earlier, vision to both be present with the family and bring home the bacon. That's a great, two big pieces of vision. But if we could just turn our attention to vision for a minute, and I'm talking about vision for couples that are not in a really terrible place, but couples they're already ambitious. They've got some vision. They're excited, but they really feel like they want to take their family life, particularly their marriage life, from good to great. So, what do you in your work, mostly with dads, but obviously you talk about marriage all the time. What do you see as perhaps the number one cause of marital frustration and disappointment for couples that want to go from good to great, so they're already doing fairly well? Yeah, what do you see?
Without a doubt, communication. Communication is a key element of a healthy marriage, and most of us are not given the tools, the resources of how to do that effectively. Men will speak their language, women will speak theirs, and it's like she's speaking Chinese and we're speaking French. But communication is key. I think, but it's, communication skills within marriage is something that's not taught. When it comes to communication with my wife and I, is I don't fix anything. I've learned that lesson. Don't fix. But I use something with her called tactical empathy, where I feel her feelings. Doesn't mean necessarily maybe I agree with them or I even agree with why she's feeling the way she is. I get it. I'm there with her. Emotional validation is a big part of what a man can do to solidify and connect to your wife. Women have a deep need to feel seen, heard, and understood. That's how they feel connected. Men have a deep need to feel validated, appreciated, and respected. And I think if both people really understood what the other person needs, my wife knows, like, I love to be appreciated. I'm a man. I love to be appreciated. I love to be respected. I know that my wife needs to feel heard. She needs to feel seen, and nothing will crush her more than anything than those two things. My wife will even articulate it using different words. She's like, sometimes I feel like I'm talking, but it's falling on deaf ears because my children aren't listening to me. And sometimes you, and that's true. I mean, think about it. I mean, what the human psychology, the human psyche, what that does to somebody when you are talking and that person is not paying attention to you, you feel unimportant. You feel terrible about yourself. Like something's wrong with you.
Yeah.
And nothing will make a woman feel more demeaned at first in the relationship than if she's not heard. So that's really big. The other thing too is understanding. I mean, this is simple stuff, simple, not easy. Understanding your wife's love language.
Yeah.
So my wife, I really need to understand, like I'm physical touch and words of affirmation. I'm a typical guy. If you love me, hug me, kiss me, all the other good stuff, and tell me good things. My wife is more of an act of service and quality time. So if I really want to make her feel loved, seen, and heard, when we're out on date nights or any other night, I put my phone down when she's talking. As your phone buzzes. And then,
you heard that.
of course I did. And then, which is really funny. And then, the other thing too, acts of service. So when I help my wife around the house, because my wife, for some reason, even though I've told her over and over, I was like, you don't have to bear the brunt of everything in this house. Like not everything is your chore. Like we have able and willing people in this house to do things. And my wife feels that when there's something that needs to be done, it's her responsibility to do it. Now I'm always like, no, it's all of ours. So, everyone pitching in, helping with housework is very meaningful to her. And also her getting out with her friends is very meaningful with her. She needs to get out and feel like a woman and have womanly conversations and fun. And when I tell her like, hey, go have fun, get out of here, please. She has guilt to deal with. And part of my job is to relieve that guilt. Like, look, we got this. We have guy time when you're not here. We have 4 boys. Like, Get out of here. Have fun.
Mm.
And she comes back refreshed, renewed, and ready to rock and roll. So that I
So
understand
good.
about her. Yeah.
That's so good. So did it take you guys a long time to get to that place of communication?
I'm not the smartest guy in the world, Dan, so it took me a while. You know, my learning curve is much broader than others, right? Yeah, I've known her for I've known her for 24 years. We've been married for 17. I would say the past, well, I mean, ever since I started Good Dad Project 2013, that was probably the beginning of a turning point for us.
Yeah.
We had your typical, it was good, mediocre marriage. But there was a lot of things going on, a lot of questions, a lot of resentment, a lot of
Mm.
miscommunications.
Mm.
Um, Loved her, she loved me, but there was missing pieces. And I would say, without a doubt, learning from podcast guests and books and community like you're a part of has made all the difference, without a doubt.
All of that is so good to hear. So good to hear. And so just this, there's just gold in everything you're saying, Larry. That last piece there, I feel like you just gave this massive secret away to, about being a part of a community. Can you lean into that just a little bit more for me? Because I just to kind of give a bit more context. I I think one of my biggest burdens, for me personally, is to make sure I'm experiencing hope, um, you know, education on how to be a dad. You get your academics at school, but it says nothing about how to be a dad. And some of us get a lot from our dads, and some of us get nothing from our dads or our mums and dads. But but um, but my big passion is for me, my wife, and my kids to have a high level of courage and just motivation in life that obviously I get from people like yourself. So you just gave away this big secret. Get around a community. Lean into that just for me. Could you, like, if you were answering this question, what's the best way to kind of change your future? Um, Take control of things that are variables that you can control. How would you pour that into someone's heart so they really get it? Because I really want us to hear what you're saying on this one.
Well, I go back to a quote from one of my greatest mentors, who is Aaron Walker, who wrote the book View from the Top. And Aaron will tell you, isolation is the enemy of excellence. And
Oof, right there.
yeah, I mean, isolation is the enemy of excellence. And if you look at the way most men lead their lives, and they don't understand, why am I not fulfilled? Why am I not leading the life that I want to? Everything's okay, but how do I lead this incredible epic life? And it's usually because men take a lot of pride in this lone wolf syndrome.
Yeah.
This lone wolf syndrome. Oh, it drives me nuts. It drives me nuts because I used to love being the lone wolf. Like, oh, strong. You know what happens to the lone wolf? The lone wolf dies. That's what happens to the lone wolf. The lone wolf is the lone wolf because either A, he has lost the pack and he is now going to die because he doesn't have the pack, or he's injured and he's stepped away from the pack because he knows he's going to die. Either way, the lone wolf dies. That's what happens to the lone wolf. The pack is strong because of the wolf, and the wolf is strong because of the pack. The key is, though, is like-mindedness, like-minded men, like-minded people.
Yeah.
One of your niches, Dan, that I want to acknowledge and appreciate is your spirituality, and you're very open about that. And everyone knows what a Bible study is, right? And everyone, whether you're spiritual or not, people know how powerful a Bible study is. The reason Bible study groups are so empowering is because it's like-minded people who are all operating with the scripture and the word of God as their foundation. They have that community that they can learn from, that they can come back to, that they can live, that they can do life with.
Yeah.
And men are no different. In our community, what we have, and yours is very similar, is we call it the 5 dimensions, the 5 elements, whatever you want to call it, which is mastering your personal finances is one, optimizing your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health is another, creating a legendary marriage, creating an incredible connection with your kids, and being a leader in your community and business. Those are the 5 elements. And if you look at those things, those are the elements we have the least amount of education in. And if you think about this for a moment, think about if you were a cop think of, not a cop yet, but you applied to the police academy,
Mm-hmm.
and you show up on the day of, your application is accepted. Congratulations, come to the police academy. You show up the first day, you're all excited in the police academy. Instructors come out and they're like, oh yeah, hey, we just close things down. We don't train anybody anymore. In fact, everything that you're going to learn is learning on the job. So head down to precinct 3. That's your precinct. They're going to put you in a squad car, give you a gun and a badge and a taser, and you're going to go fight crime. Boom, there you go. Have fun. And you wouldn't fathom to train a cop like that. You wouldn't train anybody like that. Doesn't matter if they're in IT software. It doesn't matter if they're a cop. Doesn't matter if they're a professional fighter. No one gets trained like that.
Right.
Yet, when you walk down the aisle and walk back, people pat you on the back and they're like, oh, it's the best time of your life. You'll figure it out. What? Figure what out? And then, by the way, as you're walking that journey, right, marriage and parenting, you better not say you're lost, because then you're weak, right? Don't say you have any problems, because then you're weak, and not everything is fine and good and fine. People
Yeah.
people see the problems through the roses in your landscaping in the front porch, and that's the problem. And I think if most of us had the attitude of like, wow, like those 5 dimensions, it totally makes sense to learn some skills in that. Like, why wouldn't you? And it's no different than the professional setting.
That is fantastic. That was the best piece right at the end there for me, Larry. I just so appreciate your time, just having a good discussion, and I gotta just express my personal gratitude to you for helping me with the early days of this community as well, and sharing so generously. You're a blessing. So I really, really am glad. Thank you so much, and thanks for answering these questions so
Back at you.
authentically. Yeah,
Yeah,
appreciate it.
anytime.
Thanks. All right, take care.
You too.